So now we come to today's agent, which is Guy at 1-888-496-4248. I'm calling the number, and it now shows as the cell person is not answering right now. This phone is currently not being used right now, or it just rings 6 times and then somebody hangs it up. And then, after doing that 4 times, twice in the day and twice at night, I get a phone call from Jason M. And he says, "Oh, I see you've been trying to call me. What is it that you needed me for?" And one time he said his name was Jason Miller. Another time he said his name was Jason Maurati, Maurati. And then the other person that called the first time said his name was Guy, but said that was a code name. In other words, not his real name. And he was the individual that said, pardon me while I put the phone away so they don't listen. He was the one that said that these 12 numbers are all Putin's numbers, where he's watching you, where he's literally watching each keystroke as you make it. And these 12 numbers are from the CIA. And as we are watching each keystroke as you type it, and we want to change your IP address so that Putin doesn't find your conspiracy series land fraud scheme of the 1%, which is this book in screenplay format, ready to go, and the Paris analysis of the Paris Bataclan attacks. It's called Terrorist Massacre at Bataclan, Paris, and Sociology of a Terror Cell. Both can be found under author E.G.A.R. White on CreateSpace.com. The Paris book is found at CreateSpace.com/615-2756. The 1% land scheme, the new land fraud scheme of the 1%, is CreateSpace.com/588-7026. And the banking bailout fraud scheme, the details of what they actually did behind the scenes as they stole the 20,000 homes, and how they actually got paid 5 times for every loan, and yet then they took all of our houses and sold them all, and the citizens of each and every country are now saddled with a tax payment scheme that they can't afford to possibly ever repay, and they intend to get paid again and or eventually seize entire New World Order. That whole scheme of how they did that and how they got paid 5 times before they walked into Congress and said, "You need to pay us right now at 3 o'clock, or in 2 hours, we shut down the entire banking system." They held us hostage. What happened to we do not negotiate with terrorists? Now, we arm and train them with brand new Toyota trucks and new AKs and new uniforms and hot meals and a 2-day work week and a 50,000 sign-on bonus for ISIL and a 35,000 sign-on bonus for Al-Nusra, or rather the other way around. They started off originally as 5, then 10, then 15,000 per man, and you turn around and all of a sudden Nusra's got the 35,000 sign-on bonus, and nope, I said that right. Nusra was the one that got the 50,000 sign-on bonus. That was Hillary's little baby, and Obama's got slightly less with the ISIL dudes at 35,000 sign-on bonus. So if you want to know what their end plan is and how they got paid 5 times, that's CreateSpace.com/622-9106, and an explanation of each and every one of the end times prophecies, verse by verse, of what's happening actually today. It's kind of like reading the end of the book, okay? Don't think that, ooh, this is a religious thing, I can't look at it. You're reading the end of the book. You're finding out what's going to happen before it happens. Explained to you, spoon-fed like milk, in Revelations, a commentary aid in the understanding of end-time prophecies. Create space 6073810. Definitely, these 4 books are well worth the while in explaining what's happening. So, I get the call from the agent. I blow them off my computer, restart everything, reset everything, totally unprogram everything, because everything's frozen. I had to redo the whole caboodle. And then I get on, I'm working for 2 weeks, and I keep seeing these little niches, these little things, something turning on, something turning off, something absolutely disappearing right in front of my face. For 2 weeks. Basically, they're Intel nudges, like we said to call us, okay? And 2 weeks later, the same message passes on the screen, and I called the guy, and he asked for permission to change the IP address, and guess what happened next? Weinhammer called me up, screaming. Okay, I've known him for 25, 30 years, and he wants to know why I reprogrammed my computer to kick him off so that he can't see me. Now, while I was on the computer talking with the CIA guy, who we're not sure if he's really CIA and if his name's really Guy, I showed him. I said, come over here on my computer, and here is a little screen along the side. And when you go down here and it says Hidden Network, Surveillance Band 1, Surveillance Band 2, those are 3 internet lines tied up by the local, now called NSA, wherewith they use the increased cell towers, one on Kmart, one by the Woodpile place, one in Moonridge, and one by the sheriff's station. They're using those to monitor everything that goes on in Big Bear. We're talking about every single cell phone, every single computer. Everything is massively surveilled, stored, recorded, analyzed, and watched by these 3 ex-sheriffs who fit the profile of being former law enforcement professional to staff this new local NSA so that they can absolutely spy on everything that every single person says or does. Not because they're interested in law enforcement, but because they're the guys who are the 8 officers who initially started taking down all the local drug houses, initially started getting rid of every blue-collar guy in the city. You're a backyard mechanic, you're gone. You're ordered to stay away from 1 year, and if you don't, and you're sitting on a couch, as they did to Santino, and they walked into the house of the friend he was visiting, and they went upstairs, and oh my God, they found 1 empty shell casing in a dresser that was upstairs. The guy said, that's not a shell that comes from any gun that I have. And Carlos was just sitting there, talking to some guy in the house. He didn't know what was in there. But that 1 shell casing put him back to prison. It wasn't because he had a battery charge and it's illegal to be around weapons. It was because he violated that they told him, don't come back to the mountain for 1 year. Why? Because his ex-girlfriend was an 18-year-old hottie, total meth head slut that would sleep with anybody who said, ooh, you're cute, or gave her a $5 rock. So that's how bad the corruption level has gone down to in our town, okay? We have officers in our town that pulled a shotgun on a girl and forced her to go back inside of a building and then took her in there and raped her. We have officers that go and do what they call like a drug house check twice a year, where they ramble through every single house of anyone who's ever had a charge of any kind and just trash the place, looking for drugs or weapons. And sometimes they'll pick up 6 or 7 or 10 or 12 guys and take them to the station, and they stick them in a cell, and they sit there for 72 hours. And while they're in the cell, the officers go back to the houses and rape those poor little girlfriends that are sitting there. And if they don't cooperate, then the guy gets charged. And if they do, then on Monday morning the guy is released without charges, knowing that his girlfriend was raped semi-compliantly, semi-forcibly by officers. And these girls have made secret reports that these officers don't know about, which clearly identify each and every one of them. But when you combine that with them using their own drugs, because in the old days, they would go in, bust a house, and then they'd yank up one plant and say, well, we'll just take this back to the station, we'll test it. And if it's drugs, we'll arrest you, and if not, whatever. And they would just yank up a plant and go home and smoke it with a little wifey who likes drugs to get off. And then it went to busting houses and saying, you're going to cooperate and be a drug grow house with us. We either all get a chunk, or you can go to prison and we'll take your house, we'll take your car, we'll put you in prison for 10 years, we'll order things to be done to you while you're in prison, and you'll never live to get out. Okay? And all the blue collars have been chased off the mountain. All the backyard mechanics like Santino with a cute girlfriend who has a drug problem, kicked off the mountain. And when she went into a rehab for 6 months, when she got out, she got a $6,000 check to start her life over again. Are you serious? I never got a $6,000 check for being a good girl. Why should some girl who screws everybody on the ground in front of 5 other guys for a $5 rock, why should she get a $6,000 check? When I'm a single mom, trying to make grocery money to support 2 kids and selling my own clothes so that I don't have to go on welfare. Why did the criminal get the money and not the person who's being good? Well, I get a phone call from Weinhammer, who says he's now the head of the new local NSA, screaming about why did I change the IP address on my computer. I said, dude, I do intel analysis on, I know when somebody says something, I know what the truth is really behind it. I know what the intel analysis is. I know what the economic analysis is. If I can figure out all these things having absolutely no access to anything, can you imagine what I could do for any country? Having documents to analyze and say, no, this isn't what happened. This over here is what really happened. What could I do with real information? Unlimited. So I said, dude, I do the information analysis. I'm lucky if I know how to turn on a computer. I'm not a computer building nerd. I don't know that end of it. That's not what I do. So maybe you should figure out that it was the CIA that changed the number. And they weren't kicking your paranoid ass off my computer. They were kicking somebody big off that they didn't want to see another book that I had written. Well, that semi-calmed him down for a moment or two. But, I got asked by a local church, will you come by and we got a truck coming in tomorrow, we need some people to help unload the food. I said, well, okay, I need to go to town tomorrow to get some batteries for an alarm lock. Well, don't worry about it. We just live a couple blocks past you. We'll pick you up on the way. There's no reason for you to waste gas, too. We'll go do the food thing real quick, and we'll take you on into town and go get your batteries. Yeah, okay. So I get there. They divvied up the food all right. Not a single bag of it went into the building that's supposed to be for the food for the poor go. They split it up between themselves, and he threw a couple extra bags in the back seat and said, here, these are for you. I said, I can't eat that thing that you're loading into those bags. When I get that given to me by a local church, I give it to my neighbor for them and their kids. It's not something that dietarily I can eat, that thing that you just put in those bags. Well, whatever. They threw it in there anyway. So I went to the pastor of that church, and I went to the local government monitored food bank and said, they threw these bags at me, and this is something that I can't do. And they divvied up the entire truckload between these 2 guys. The guy that's in charge of it for the church and his friend who just got released from prison. Well, that's not the bad part. As we go through town, he passes the tiny little hardware store, and I said, that's where I have to go. There's a special lock in there that I bought, and only that lady knows what lock I have and what battery I'm going to need to fix it, so I don't end up, it goes out and I'm locked out of my house. Oh, no. It can only be this battery or this battery. We'll go and get them from my house. Oh. Have any of you girls ever heard that before? We'll go and get it from my house. Yeah, well, he ended up driving deep into the forest, and basically I was kidnapped and hostage for 24 hours, and I'd been crying and screaming for 5.5 hours straight at one point, and he leans over and says, "Here, how about giving me a first kiss?" I said, "Even if we ever ended up together, would you want this to be remembered as the first kiss? I don't think so." And I'm looking at the sky getting dark and seeing the rough terrain and boulders and barely carved, dirt ditch that we had used as a road getting up to this forsaken place. And he agrees that he will take me back home. So we get through, and there's no lights anywhere, and he says, "Oh my God, there's an emergency. There's no power in town. I need to run up to the door and get something adjusted, turned on, fixed somehow one way." And I've got something there that you can drink. He's had me out in nowhere for 24 hours now, and I've been crying and screaming for so long that I needed some kind of something to drink. So, all right. So I got this grape juice that was supposed to be from the church, and it had been laced with very, very heavily with morphine and codeine and 3 other drugs. And I immediately, when I felt certain things happen in my body, I'm deadly allergic to these, I knew that I'd been drugged. And he flicks on the TV as I'm drinking this glass, and there was a movie on it. It was just starting, and I said, "This is a long movie, and it's 2.5 hours." And I reached with my arm, and I grabbed this blanket, and I wrapped it around me really tight and sat there, like as if I'm cold. And as soon as I did that, the feeling in my arm went completely numb, and I was absolutely paralyzed and unable to move. So I sat there and pretended like I was engrossed in this TV thing, just to let the clock go as long as I could. And when it hit the 2.5 hour mark, I jumped and ran for the door. And then I went down to talk to the head of the parole agency, and then checked myself into a hospital, got drug tested, and then sat down and made a 6-page affidavit, and then got it notarized, and I delivered it simultaneously to everybody. The head detective, Weinhammer, boy, that's a familiar name now, and the chief parole officer and everybody else that could possibly be involved. And I got a phone call 48 minutes after I set the paper down on the counter at the sheriff's station for Mr. Weinhammer. And the voice on the other end was Guy, the supposed CIA agent again, and he said, "I just want you to know that they're not going to do anything on your case." What do you mean? What are you talking about? And he said, "Well, I was just listening in on his phone call, and instead of going to the guy's house, and getting that jar of grape juice that was pre-mixed with all this crap in it for his dates and testing it, called the guy and goes, da 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 da, okay, wait a minute, da 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 da, okay, here, da 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 da, okay, da 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 da, okay, here," and he read him 3 little snippets off your affidavit. Never went over there. All they literally had to do was go to the residence, the guy opens the door, grab the bottle off the counter right in front of them, already pre-mixed with all this stuff in it. Test it. Find out that it was exactly the same amounts as what would be found in my blood. Boom. Automatic, slam dunk, sexual charges case, conviction. Let's hear the applause now, please. That's it. Would have been done. Instead, he calls me up and wants to interrogate me in this angry, nasty voice at the station. And I said, "Why? You have everything you need in that affidavit right down to his eye color. I've done all these cases for FBI, so you've got everything you need to get him into court, and with doing these serious cases that I will show up and be the testimony in court. So read it, take him, you got the conviction." Well, he went file a report, he went to go talk to the guy, he went nothing. 10 days later, the chief parole officer calls me. Weinhammer called me, and he wants me to ask you why you won't come into the station to do an interrogation. I'm like, I'm the victim. And I gave you a 6-page legal affidavit with absolutely every detail you could possibly want in it, including in great detail how he's going to break his parole on this day at this time and this day at this time, doing this and this and this. And then he's going to go and kill these 5 people, and these are how he's going to do this, including the pastor that lives in San Bernardino County, including 2 very wealthy Jewish businessmen, and he did nothing. So at 10 days afterward, when this parole agent called me and said, why didn't you go in? I said, you told me the man would be arrested before I even drove home if I gave you all the information that you needed, and I did, and I went and did the drug test, and I did the affidavit, and I did everything, and you still haven't done anything. I said, did you ever bother going to the guy's house even? He said, well, we went there, yesterday. I said, so 10 days later? Yeah, 10 days later. We went there and we looked around his house and we found some illegal contraband, and, so we smacked his hand for having things, illegal contraband and illegal drugs, some weapons, some stuff was there. And I said, well, by Weinhammer not going straight to the house and getting that juice off the counter to be tested, he totally blew the case. Well, then all of a sudden Weinhammer calls me again. He was pissed when the CIA agents changed the IP address on my computer. Now he's pissed because I told him and the probation officer that 48 minutes after that affidavit was on the counter at the station, the same agent called me up and said he's totally blown the collar. And he called the guy and read him 3 snippets off your affidavit. When he called me after speaking with the parole guy, he was screaming and yelling and wanted to know who was listening in on his phone calls and why. He was pissed that he was being surveilled by the CIA agent guy. Well, I was explaining the story and all this, and a couple days later I got a phone call from supposedly his boss, Jason Marotti, Jason Miller, Jason something with an M, and if he's a CIA agent, at that number that I read to you. And he says, oh, by the way, we changed your IP address by doing this, this, and this. So he had been listening to me again when my phone and my computer were off, and these 2 individuals started having a war with each other. Weinhammer from the sheriff/NSA and Jason and Guy from the CIA, although their mannerisms when being notified, well, here's the hidden surveillance and surveillance band 1 and surveillance band 2 and these other things on the computer. You can see them right on my list right here. And these are the entities which have stolen all of the local free Linksys internet for their own new NSA Boys Club surveillance team. So let's finish up the rest of that on this next video. And if you'd like to contact me about the details in this, please call me Ellie Blair White at buffalostudy@yahoo.com, or please, in any kind of assistance, getting an attorney to me or an OIG or AG involved, paypal.me/buffalostudy@yahoo.com. Let's hear the rest about the agents on our next video.